All right, we got a quick little series of videos here today. I got a 2014 Jeep Wrangler here behind me. So the reports that I got here is that it has a slight stutter whenever you take off from a stop, and it overheated on her once, but it seems to be hit or miss on whether or not it will overheat. Right away, we were going to do a coolant drain flush and change the thermostat. The thermostat on these are absolutely terrible. They get gummed up. That coolant breaks down over time and gets like this gooey, gummy stuff in it. So we're going to flush it out, and then we are going to swap that thermostat, and we'll get that cooling system put back together. All right, we're going to get right into this thermostat here. So first things first, you're going to want to remove this engine cover. You can just literally pull it up and set it to the side. Look at that. That thing had a rubber fall out of it when we did that. Yeah, Jeep. We'll dig that out of there and we'll find it. But this, you can set this over to the side. All right, and every one of these Jeeps I've ever seen, it always makes me laugh. These little intake boot tabs with bolts are always broken. Must be a Jeep thing. But we'll pull this line out of here. We'll pull these two 10 mils out. This one's cracked, but at least it seems to be holding somewhat. This one's not really doing anything, but we'll get it back in there as best we can. And then we are going to take this 8 mil here, this 8 mil here loose on this clamp, and there is a sensor on the bottom side here. God, I've done this too many times. Down here, we need to unplug that sensor, and then this whole boot assembly can come out. All right, here we are. The intake piping's off. I just wanted to show you this little intake air temperature sensor. It does have a little locking tab retainer in it that you got to slide backwards. It looks like this one may have fell out. It was already broken, but she's down on the ground somewhere. But yeah, just make sure you slide that back before you squeeze it and unplug it. All right, here we are. So I actually pulled the lower hose down here to drain the coolant, and I'm running out of time here, so we're gonna go kind of quickly. Your thermostat is right here. We're gonna now pull the upper hose. If you're gonna flush, I'm not gonna show that on camera because I'm gonna do it pretty fast, but essentially once you have the thermostat off, you'll put a water hose in here, just run it till you see clear fluid coming out, and do the same thing at the radiator side. And then you're good to go. They do sell like detergent you can put in there to wash through it, but I've never seen the value in that. And me and nobody I know has ever had an issue just flushing it till you see clear water. But here we go. We're gonna pull this. This is 8 millimeter band clamp up here on top. We'll pull this off. If you have a radiator hose removal tool, I'd highly suggest it. These hoses get grimed on there. So you're gonna slide this in the end and just ream around the hose to break it free. Then you can pull it right off. So let me get that off, and then we will go to about removing this thermostat. All right, and here we are. That hose is off. Everything is drained out. So now we're going to come in here to this 10 millimeter on top, and there's one more down here on the bottom. We'll take both those out, and this puppy will just come right on off of here. Here we go. Here's the old one in our hand. You can see this one doesn't have as much gunk and grime as I thought I would see on here, but if you look at it, you'll see that, hey, you'll see this thing looks cattywampus and like crooked in here, making it stuck. So this should be laying flat. So we're gonna go get our new Mopar part, and we will slap that thing back on. I will put the torque specs up here in the video, but for now I'm gonna slap all this back together, and then when I get to the point of topping off the coolant and bleeding it, I'll pick up there, because these things are a nightmare to bleed, these cooling systems. But I will show you the best way I've found to do it. I'm sorry, I also forgot to mention, you do need to clean this gasket mating surface right here. So I like to shove a paper towel in the hole, and then I'll use a little piece of red Scotch-Brite and then some brake cleaner, and then I'll wipe it off with paper towels. All right, here we are. We are ready to finish this up and get this puppy bled. I do want to say, I don't know if I said this earlier, but the aftermarket thermostats for these Jeeps are absolutely horrible. So you want to run Mopar brand if you can. I know they're on national back order. I got lucky, my dealer had them. It also seems like the part has a design improvement. So based off the last one I got from Mopar and this one, they are definitely different, and this one looks a lot beefier. But here's the part number. The Mopar number is 0518-4651-AH. I will put a link up in the video and in the description if I can find one online. I will also have Amazon links for things like hose removal tools and this little screwdriver thing I'm going to show you in a second, or actually tell you about, because somebody lost mine. But there are two ways you can do this bleeding process, right? That I found, and I'm going to use the less efficient way and the more painful way, but we're going to give it a whirl right now. So what you're going to do is there's a bleeder screw right here on top of the thermostat, and it takes a Phillips screwdriver, or even potentially a flathead you can use to break it loose by kind of pushing it at an angle, but it's made out of plastic and has a tendency to want to disintegrate. So I used to have a 1/4-inch drive bit driver that would shorten this up a heck of a lot more. But the problem is it sits directly underneath that throttle body. You can't really get any tools in there. So what I'm using is a 1/4 inch drive ratchet with a 1/4 inch socket on it and a Phillips screwdriver bit in it. I can fish this in there, but I gotta hold onto it with my finger. We will crack it loose, and then once it's cracked loose, we'll unscrew it by hand a bit, and we can start topping off the coolant. I'm gonna use Xerix Orange as my replacement. From my understanding, it doesn't break down nearly as badly as like the OEM stuff does, but it still will break down over time, but you got quite a while. That's what we're gonna use, is Xerix Orange. So I'll get this cracked loose and I'll show you what I'm talking about, but essentially we're going to fill it up when it's cracked loose until the point that that thing spews over. Then we'll reach in there and tighten it with our fingers and give it one gentle tighten down this way. Then we'll put the hosing back on, which makes this even more difficult, and then you have to fire it up and let it get to temperature. And once that thermostat opens, you got to reach down in there with the heater on and crack it one more time and let whatever air bubbles are there bubble out, and then tighten it down while it's running. And you're going to burn your fingers when you do that, and it's going to suck, but that's the best way I found to get all the air out of this thing without a vacuum filler, which I do have a vacuum filler, but it never seems to work right. All right, here we go. I just want to show you. So I removed the screw all the way on my initial fill, and then as I'm filling it up, once it starts pouring out, you'll see it is right there all the way to the top. Now I'm going to reach back in here. We're going to put this puppy in. Oop. If I could do it on camera, screw it in by hand, then we'll get it down nice and tight. I ended up using channel locks and carefully untwisting it with small channel locks this go around, because I could not get that other assembly to fit in there. So we just kind of going to snug it up with these channel locks, and then I'll finish topping off the coolant and we'll fire it up. All right, here we are. So the telltale trick to tell if you got all the air blood out on your thermostat is just feel this hose once you're up to temperature. If this hose is hot, the thermostat is open and coolant is flowing. So I actually managed to get this one done on that first fill. I didn't even have to crack it while I was running. She is running and maintaining temperature now. It's good. We'll go in here and take a look-see, but there we are. Right in the middle, slightly left, maintaining perfect temperature. So I'm gonna go take it for a quick test drive, but otherwise, yeah, we're gonna throw that cover back on and we're good to go. We'll give it a good drive around, and then we'll check the coolant level once it cools all the way down one last time. But it took a little over 2 gallons, which is about the capacity. I think this thing has like a 10.5 quart capacity. There's probably a little water left in there from the flush out, but that's totally fine. So we're good to go. If that video helped you out, hit the thumbs up button and subscribe if y'all want to see more.